Have you heard about the Mafia? They were an Italian-American criminal organization that dominated organized crime in the United States during the 20th century. But do you know what's even more interesting than their rise to power? Their fascination with lighters? Yeah, seriously. These guys love their lighters. And one particular lighter became an iconic symbol of the Mafia, forever immortalizing its owner in both infamy and tragedy. So grab a smoke, and let's talk about the lighter that made Vito Genovese a legend. Vito Genovese was born on January 27, 1902. In Italy, and immigrated to the United States in 1913 at the age of 11, he was raised in poverty in Little Italy, in New York City, and turned to petty crime at an early age. By his late teens, he was already involved with the local gangs and was arrested several times for robbery and burglary. But it was when he met Charles "Lucky" Luciano that things started to get really interesting. Luciano was one of the most powerful mobsters of all time and is considered to be one of the founding fathers of modern organized crime in America. He took Genovese under his wing and taught him the ways of the Mafia, grooming him to be one of his top men. Under Luciano's guidance, Genovese rose through the ranks of the Mafia quickly. By the 1930s, he was already a capo regime, or head of a crime family, controlling vast criminal enterprises that included gambling, extortion, prostitution, and narcotics trafficking. But it was during this time that he developed a taste for fine things, particularly lighters. Genovese wasn't satisfied with the cheap Zippo lighters that everyone else was using. He wanted something more elegant, something that would reflect his status as a high-ranking mobster. Enter the Silver Zippo. This wasn't just any lighter. It was a custom-made masterpiece that was designed to be the ultimate expression of luxury and sophistication. Crafted from sterling silver, it had intricate designs and engravings that made it truly one of a kind. And unlike the standard butane lighters that everyone else was using, the Silver Zippo used a flint and steel mechanism to ignite its fuel, giving it a unique and satisfying spark every time it was used. It's not clear exactly when Genovese got his hands on the Silver Zippo, but it was likely sometime in the 1930s when he was at the height of his power. For the next few years, the lighter became his trademark, a symbol of his wealth and power that struck fear into the hearts of his enemies. He was often seen carrying it in his pocket and would pull it out whenever he needed to light a cigarette or, make a business deal. The Silver Zippo was so iconic that other mobsters tried to copy him, leading to a trend of custom-made lighters among the Mafia elite.
Ow.
But none of them could ever match the original. In 1957, however, FBI finally caught up with Genovese, and he was convicted of narcotics trafficking and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. Despite the setback, Genovese remained defiant and continued to run his criminal enterprises from behind bars. In fact, it was in prison that he really embraced the lighter as a symbol of his enduring power. You see, despite his best efforts, Genovese couldn't shake the reputation that preceded him. In prison, he was known as the man with the Silver Zippo, and it seemed like the lighter had become a part of him. He was so closely associated with it that other inmates started calling him Zippo, and even the guards couldn't help but notice it. Whenever Genovese was moved between prisons, they had to pack the lighter separately from his other belongings, and it was one of the few personal items that he was allowed to keep in his cell. However, it was only a matter of time before the inevitable happened. In 1969, while serving time at the federal prison in Marion, Illinois, Genovese fell ill with cancer. He was transferred to the prison hospital and given only weeks to live. When news of his illness spread, fellow mobsters sent word that they would be willing to pay his medical bills if he were to be released. But by that point, Genovese was too far gone for such a move to be of any use. On April 14, 1969, Vito Genovese died of a heart attack at the age of 67. He was buried in a New York City cemetery after a funeral that was attended by hundreds of mourners, many of whom were fellow mobsters. As for his famous lighter, well, it disappeared along with him. There are conflicting reports about what happened to the Silver Zippo after Genovese's death, but no one knows for sure. Some say it was seized by the FBI and melted down, while others claim it was stolen by a member of Genovese's crew who sold it to an unsuspecting collector. There is even a rumor that the lighter was cursed and brought bad luck to anyone who owned it, which may explain why it's never resurfaced. But here's the thing. Despite the mystery surrounding its whereabouts, the legend of the lighter continues to live on. You can find stories about it in books, articles, and even online forums. And it's become a pop culture icon, appearing in TV shows like The Sopranos and movies like Donnie Brasco. Of course, not everyone believes the hype. Some people dismiss the lighter as nothing more than a gangster myth, while others argue that it was nothing more than a simple prop that was used to make Genovese look more intimidating. But those who believe in the legend are convinced that there's something special about the Silver Zippo, something that sets it apart from all the other lighters in the world. I mean, think about it. Here was a man who was feared by law enforcement and respected by his peers, a man who had risen from poverty to become one of the most powerful criminals of all time, and he was known for carrying a small, seemingly insignificant object that anyone could buy. It may seem strange to us now, but back then, carrying a Zippo lighter was a sign of wealth and power. It was a way of saying, "I've made it." And for someone like Genovese, who had come from nothing, it was the perfect symbol of his success. So what was it about the Silver Zippo that made it so iconic? Well, for one thing, it was a status symbol that set Genovese apart from the other mobsters. It was a way of showing that he had arrived, but it was also a tool that helped him strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. When you pulled out a Zippo lighter in those days, it meant business. It was a signal that you weren't someone to mess around with. And when that Zippo was made of silver, it sent a clear message that you were serious. Of course, the lighter itself didn't actually make Genovese dangerous. He was already feared and respected by most people. But it did help to reinforce his image as a ruthless mobster, who was unafraid to use violence to get what he wanted. In a world where image was everything, the Silver Zippo was an important part of Genovese's brand. It was a way of communicating his power and influence without having to say a word. And in the world of organized crime, that was worth more than money. But ultimately, the legend of the Silver Zippo is really just a small part of a much larger story. The story of how Vito Genovese became one of the most infamous mobsters of all time. It's a story of power and corruption, of ambition and betrayal, and of the lengths to which a man will go to achieve the American dream. Genovese may be gone, but his legacy lives on in the stories that are told about him, including the one about his lighter. So next time you see a Zippo lighter, whether it's an old vintage model or a brand new one, remember that it could be more than just a simple tool for lighting cigarettes. It could be a relic of a bygone era, a symbol of a time when organized crime was at its peak and the Mafia ruled the streets of America, and who knows, it might even be cursed. That's all for today. If you liked this video, please leave a like and comment below if you have any suggestions for future videos.